During the lead-up to World War I, Bernays sat on the U.S. Committee on Public Information, a government agency set up by President Woodrow Wilson to stir up public sentiment in favor of U.S. participation in the war. Sitting alongside Bernays was Walter Lippmann, another famous American propagandist and author of the classic work on social psychology entitled Public Opinion. Lippmann wrote on the power of symbology, and specifically, the way individuals use symbols to process information. He argued that people are more susceptible to believing the images in their heads than arriving at judgments through critical thinking. And since humans tend to condense ideas into symbols, those tasked with educating the public, Lippmann argued, would have to refine their methods of communicating if they were to remain influential. He called this method the manufacture of consent, a spin-off of Bernays' famous phrase. Bernays, Lippmann, and Harold Lasswell, another prominent 20th century social scientist, were the leading minds behind behavioralism, the technique of employing propaganda to alter the attitudes and behavior of mass society. Behavioralism and its offshoots became the primary vehicle by which empire disseminated its ideas.
We're run by psychologists, behaviorists, neuroscientists, and so on, and marketers, of course, that are way ahead of everybody because they're the original ones who've studied mankind for thousands of years, really for merchants who have to be able to flog their stuff onto the public, even if they want it or not. They've got to make them want it, and it's the art of getting desires. Of course, we find that later on, in the 20th century, the Bernays types came out with, they picked up on all of this, and the people who went before them, like the crowd, the book The Crowd's Good to Get, and propaganda from Bernays himself. And they took Freud's ideas, which weren't his at all, actually. They'd been in a certain small circulation for a long time, as of people, that is. And they realized that mankind acted basically on unconscious impulses, not really rational in a sense. And that way they could control behavior, make you purchase, or make you be austere.
In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels?
In modern warfare, where ideas are the main ammunition, propaganda becomes a weapon of mass destruction. Just as conventional warfare involves an understanding of the physical sciences, engineering, and ballistics, propaganda employs the sciences of psychology, sociology, even neurology. Every branch of study dealing with human behavior and adaptation, and its impact on the subject is just as devastating. French philosopher Jacques Ellul wrote that, quote, "Propaganda has such an ability to effect psychological transformation and such an impact on the very core of man that it inevitably has military force when used by a government and directed to the outside, and is therefore by itself a state of war." Democracies are where propaganda most flourishes, for it is in democratic systems that those in power rely on their abilities to shape reality through words and images in order to stay in power. Tyrants rely on brute force and thus have scarce need for propaganda. Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels was the first to recognize that in order for propaganda to be effective, it must contain at least some truth. Deceit would simply discredit the propagandist in the long run. Propaganda is therefore the use of half-truths, exaggerated truths, limited truths, trivial truths, everything but that what is relevant and meaningful and dangerous to the state. And so the job of the propagandist is diversionary in nature. Sometimes he uses deceit, but only as a diversion to direct you to another, more convenient truth.